Hello and welcome to Black Eye the Podcast, a podcast where I share my perspective on life through my eyes. Hello, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining, thank you for listening. This is a project that I was considering doing for a long time, on and off, and one day it came to me. I was like, I have to do it. For those of you who don't know me, those of you who've never heard of me before, for those of you who do know me, this is the explanation of why we're here today and what is happening. So I used to run a podcast with one of my good friends, Ellie, that was called Restless Minds. It's still up, so if you want to listen, please do feel free to go and download it and have a listen. It was focused on ADHD and OCD, two conditions which I have, and we stopped doing that a few months ago now just because of life and busyness and moves. I just moved into a new flat and changes of jobs and just life being intense, and so we stopped doing that. But I really missed podcasting. I really missed sitting down weekly and kind of giving myself space to connect with myself and reflect and have conversation. And so I wanted to create a space where I could do that and kind of slightly shift the topic. And so this is how Black Eye was born. And Black Eye, essentially the name came to me as I'm a black man, I have eyes, and I wanted to kind of focus on addressing a wide variety of topics through my perspective, my lens, my eye as a black man, growing up in the UK, and create a space that fosters intelligent and entertaining and stimulating conversation. And that is how the name and the podcast was born. So the hope is to focus, on various topics that I think will be interesting and stimulating and thought-provoking and funny. And I really do hope to get various guests on, and I have a kind of list of people I'm looking to kind of work through already and friends. And I really want this to kind of be a podcast that anyone can listen to, and they can either as a black person kind of relate and share, or as a person who isn't black to also understand and listen, but also regardless of race to also just kind of hear someone's perspective on topics on life and someone sharing their life experiences. I don't think it's going to be just about being black, but as a black man, that forms quite a large portion of my experience in the world. And so that is how Black Eye the Podcast was born. So I'm really excited to be sitting down here today. I've spent like an hour setting up because I really wanted to get the first visual right. We didn't normally film when we did the other podcast, so it's kind of taken me a while to figure out the camera position, my desk, the microphone, and I'm hoping it looks good because I want to try and do visual content alongside this where I can, just so people can see what I look like. And a lot of podcasts I listen to, like the Hubman Lab is one of my favorite podcasts, and there's visuals to go along with that. Joe Rogan as well, there's visuals to go along with that. And so I think it's cool to, if you want to kind of see the person as they're kind of talking, or just put it on the TV in the background, you can. But also, of course, this will be on all major streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, Acast, and so on and so forth. So that's the intro about the podcast. And then again, for those of you who were recommended this podcast, found this podcast, or who I forced to listen to this podcast, my friends, thank you for listening. Let me tell you a little bit about myself and who I am and how I came to be the man I am today. So I'm 27, I live in London, my name is Timi Ario. I was born in North London to two Nigerian parents. I'm the oldest of three siblings, so I have a younger sister called Ryo and a younger brother called David. We moved to Essex when I was, I think like 4 or 5 years old, and then grew up in Essex, went to a school in Essex, and then from that I kind of graduated and then moved to a university. I went to University of Bristol, studied law, gave up on the law vibe, and then moved into a finance role. So I kind of work in the finance industry, and that's all I can say on what I do and where I work. So that's me. Interest wise, I'm really into music. I'm into film. I'm into creating basically. And I think the last 3 years, COVID has kind of made me realize, or made me, I guess, change my perspective and really focus on what I think is important to me and what I'd like to kind of focus on going forward. And one of those things was just to create more. I've had a YouTube channel for years. Again, check that out if you want to. It's TJ Ario, TJARIYO. And I've kind of dipped in and out of that for a while, but I realized I really do enjoy, regardless of the amount of views or response, I do enjoy thinking of a project, creating something, and then putting it out and seeing the final product. And so I've been doing a lot more this year, and I'll probably get into that more in future podcasts, but I've been doing a lot just kind of focusing on dedicating time to produce stuff as well as my full-time job, and balancing being an adult, which is actually the topic of today's podcast, being an adult. It's called Adulting Sucks, and it does, but we'll get onto that later. And yeah, those are my interests. I am really trying to get into, like, generally just trying to get into better health. I have a propensity to eat unlimited amounts of food all the time, and whilst that's great, I am now 27, starting to, get my love handles. I never used to be someone that put on weight before, so that was great. That was a great blessing. And then I think like 2-3 years ago, it started kind of, if I eat badly for 3 weeks, I will see it in my face and in my stomach. So I'm really trying to get better. So I'm kind of looking into new ways to exercise that are stimulating. And as I said, I have ADHD, so things can become really boring really quickly. And that's something I'm trying to work on, like building in a routine. So I'm trying to get back into going to the gym. I'm supposed to be going in an hour, so hopefully I do that. And I've really realized during lockdown as well, I really enjoy cooking. I didn't cook. I cooked a lot at uni actually, but I didn't cook great food. And I recently bought like a little magic mix, whatever, I don't know. The little stand mixers for making like cakes and stuff. So I've been doing a lot of baking and cooking, and that's kind of led into me expanding from the baking to just generally trying new meals. And I made this delicious ricotta gnocchi the other day for my friends, and so I'm just really like learning what I like to do as a person individually, and that's what I think kind of ties back into this podcast, is I really do enjoy talking about things and reviewing and sharing my perspective on things. And that's why I want to sit down and do this podcast, to talk about things that are important to me, things I find interesting, and have a space where I can kind of connect and review and share that, and then obviously hopefully get into interesting dialogues and provoke conversation. So that's me. That's the intro, the ramble, the introduction. Let's move into the main body of today's episode. So, adulting sucks. Being an adult sucks. Having to be an adult in this world is horrible. And I wanted to kind of just do an episode initially as the intro, just that would give you guys, I think, a view into where my head's at the minute. And actually, it's something I've been talking about a lot with my friends recently in the last, like, probably 3 or 4 months. And I really wanted to kind of just sit down and talk about something I think people don't really address enough as grown people in the world, and that's just that being an adult is really, really, really hard. And I by no means feel that I have it under wraps, and I don't think that I will for a while. And I think also, like, it's taken me a while to kind of accept that that's also fine. But I think 27, I've been working for 5 years now, and kind of there's a host of things that I kind of feel I need to have accomplished or have in motion to feel like I'm succeeding at life to a certain degree. And, there's a list of things that I'll kind of run through. I'm going to run through them. I've got a few that I think are quite hard to kind of do, that sound like pretty simple things, but actually when you throw in like the curveballs that life adds into things, that unexpected problems that you have to deal with, it can become a lot harder than you'd expect. And so I wanted to kind of just run through some of these examples that I have about, what it means to be an adult, and how many things we have to juggle as people, and how hard that can be. And so the first one I have is laundry. Now, this sounds insane, and maybe you're someone that doesn't deal with this, but I have a lot of clothes. I'm a hoarder in terms of like life generally, but particularly in clothes, I have a lot of clothes. I have t-shirts from like when I was 14 that they just fit, or they're comfortable, or I just like them, and I feel like they're going to be useful down the line. And one thing I realized the other day, I was at work and I was talking about, we were kind of just sat around in between like a coffee break or something, just saying how when work gets busy, certain things kind of fall out of whack. And particularly for me, like with my job, I can end up working quite late, finishing at like 10, 11 sometimes. And so it can be like long, like 12, 13, 14 hour days. And you have a few of those a week, and everything kind of falls out of whack. And I was saying that laundry is something that I always kind of like never seem to have a full handle on. My clothes baskets are always full, but I'm always constantly washing. And it's a simple thing, but also it's like, if you don't do your laundry, you don't have clothes to wear for the week. So when you're getting dressed in the morning, you're struggling to find stuff. So you're getting changed 3 or 4 times to put outfits together, and then you're late, and then you get to work and you don't even like what you're wearing and you feel uncomfortable. And so it's a very small thing, but actually it's something that I've realized that I need to kind of set aside time to do. And so I've started trying to do my washing on Saturday or Sunday so it can hang and dry with enough time for Monday. But again, back to why I find it funny, because as a kid, you know, your mum just does the laundry for the house. My mum did the laundry for our house, and thank you, mum. There were 5 of us that she was dealing with, and amongst other things that Nigerian mums kind of, you know, deal with and handle. But she would do all the washing, and then the clothes would always be ready, and they'd be like ironed or hung up or dried or whatever. I typically just take all my clothes and chuck them in the wash, like get everything together, and I separate into lights and darks, and I just put it in, and then I wash them. I put them on a fast wash, or if it's whites, I do a cotton wash, whatever. And at work the other day when we were having this conversation, people were talking about how, you know, you've got to separate into materials and then colours. And I was really confused, because I was like, wait, I've always heard lights and darks and then whites or whatever, right? Or whatever, that kind of split of colours. But it made sense, because I've bought a few tops from Uniqlo and a few jumpers that I've washed and then they've come out looking disheveled or like shrunk, or like the quality is kind of worn off. I never really understood why, and it's just that obviously different materials have different temperatures, so you have to separate by material and then separate by colors. So if you've got 3 or 4 materials and you're separating that into lights and darks, you've got like 6 or 7 washes to do, which is, again, it's just like, who has the time to be running 6 or 7 washes with different colors and materials whilst working a full-time job and seeing their friends and keeping their, I think it's one of those things that if I could outsource, I'd probably look to outsource as soon as possible. Also, I'd need to outsource someone just coming to my house and throwing away clothes to me that they think I don't need to keep anymore, because again, the amount of clothes I have is insane. Now that's quite a light one and a silly one, but I think it's just, that's one I'm going to add to the list at the start to give you guys a view of, like, you know, you think it's pretty simple, but actually it's not. And again, maybe the key is just minimalism. You know, I've been watching, when I moved into this flat, I was watching a lot of videos on YouTube about just minimalism and how to like style and arrange and not waste space and be efficient. And one of the things is just reducing the amount of things you have to choose from. So I think it's called like there's a word for it. A word where you have like I don't want to say like shoebox wardrobe, but there's a term where you have a very minimalistic wardrobe, like a stock wardrobe or something. So you have like 2 or 3 pairs of trousers, 2 or 3 pairs of tops, 2 or 3 jumpers, and you kind of just cycle through those, very simple, like with basics. Then you can add a coat or a jacket on top, and then your rest of your clothes you kind of store away for the winter, then you swap when seasons come. I'll never be someone that does that, just because I really like clothes and I like dressing. But again, that's probably a solution I could look into if I really wanted to change my life. So on to the next issue that I have written down as part of being an adult. Plans. Now, this is one of the ones I find really hard. I was saying this to someone recently. Having friends is great, and having a group is great, and I think having colleagues is great. But what can be hard is balancing all of those responsibilities and making sure you're seeing people adequately. And I found as I've got older and I've had more things going on in my life, work, personal life, creativity, businesses, whatever, it's harder to do that. And a lot of my friends, like when we try and arrange to see each other, we spend 2 weeks finding a date, right? So, you know, you say, hey, how are you? Catch up, and then you text and you're trying to talk about when you're free, and then you suggest a date, they're not free, they suggest another date, then you're not free and you suggest another date, and then it ends up being that you end up picking a date like a month away. Like I was saying to my friend yesterday, like she wants to come around and see my flat, and this was like start of September, and then we ended up saying, okay, let's try October, and that's like 4 or 5 weeks ago. And it's funny, but things get booked up if you have a work social thing every few weeks, and then you also like end up working late sometimes during the week. You have your friends you want to see, you have to set aside days to do things that you need to do, and I find sometimes I feel guilty because I will realize that I haven't seen a friend of mine in 2 months, and it's just because we've both been busy. It's not because there's an issue, but I feel like at uni you'd see your really good friends like 2 or 3 times a week at least, you know, and that was just fine. You just kind of, hey, do you want to do this? Hey, you around? Let's go and have a coffee. Let's go for lunch. Let's go for a drink, whatever, fine. And I was someone before that I'd have plans probably every night of the week, or like 4 out of 5 nights of the week, and then I'd be busy from Friday evening to Sunday. And that was the only way I was managing to see all my friends and feel like I was kind of getting the most out of life. Obviously then, you know, COVID happened, and there was this 2-year window where you couldn't see anyone. And I kind of realized that I actually really enjoyed having ample time to relax and reflect. And so coming out of lockdown and going back into working life, and just normal life, I decided that I wanted to actually just take it a bit easier. So now I try and do like one or two things a week, and then maybe one or two things on the weekend. And I'm even shifting away from that now. Like this weekend I've had no plans, and I've just been in the house, and I've just been like, I did some cleaning and washing and laundry, and bought some stuff for the house online. I went to the range, I bought some curtains, and I filmed some content yesterday, edited some content, posted some content, and I've just had 2 days to really just set aside and do things I felt like I needed to catch up on. And this is what I'm saying about planning, is finding that balance. You know, some weekends you're gonna have plans, all the time, and that's fine. You've got a birthday and then a dinner and a brunch, and they've been booked, and that's kind of just, you know, that's the way the world goes. You have those things to go to, and those are fine. But I find that when I have weekends like that back to back, where I'm working all week and I'm super busy, and I'm getting home from work and playing catch up on my life, and like trying to make dinner and trying to do a food shop and whatever, and then on the weekends I'm just running around doing things, I then feel like I'm losing time for myself. And so what I'm trying to do now is be guided and intentional with my planning of things, and make sure I take full stock of my week when I'm making plans, to figure out, okay, well, look, yes, I am free on that Tuesday and I'm free on that Thursday, but do I want to have 3 plans back to back after work, when realistically I might have to cancel because I'm working late, or I'm going to feel super tired by Friday when I know I have loads of stuff on that weekend as well. And just trying to be more, I guess, intentional, and just be like, okay, well, I'm actually going to say, let's do the week after, because realistically a week after is fine. Like, it's 7 days, like it's not going to be like the friendship dies. And giving myself at least a window on the weekend. I'm trying to now do Sundays, protect Sundays, where on Sunday it's just me, right? I try not to have plans on a Sunday, so I can do, my friend Timi told me this, it's like a reset day where you do your laundry and you do a food shop, and maybe you like do some meal prep, or you figure out what you're going to do for the week, and you get your stuff ready for work, and you do a bit of tidying, so that, and this is something I'm terrible at, and again, I think this comes down to the ADHD, but you get yourself instead for the week and do all the admin stuff that you need done on a Sunday, so that you don't have to then be doing bits of it throughout the week. Because what I realized was really annoying me was coming back from work and then having to like start doing washing, or start tidying, or, you know, start doing meal prep, or run to Tesco's and buy this, and run to Tesco's and buy that, because it was missing. I think if you get all that stuff done out the way on the weekend, then during the week you can just live your week and then deal with the stuff that happens, or like you can just relax, you know, you can just chill. So that's one thing I found. I don't know what it's like for you guys listening, but most of my friends seem to be saying that it's really hard to kind of balance. And there are people that I want to see. Like, I have this friend that I've been trying to see for 4 months, and we're both bad at texting. So I'll text him and say, hey, like, I'm actually walking past your house, like, when are you free, let's catch up soon. Then 2 weeks later he replies, sorry, I've been on holiday, I've had this thing or whatever, and it's fine. And then I was away for 10 days and I came back, and then he was away, then I went away for 5, and I came back, and he's just been away skiing, and now he's back. And so we definitely want to see each other and catch up, but it's just one of those things where it's like, practically life is just moving hectically for both of us, and we're just not syncing up. And so it can be a kind of constant game of like remembering that I've got to see him, and then the friend that wants to come around in October, and then like I was supposed to organize an event for some people from work for drinks, I've got to do that, that's happening this week, and then people I want to see. But also one thing I realized that as well with planning, that I kind of came to realize with a friend when we went on a walk the other day, was planning is also making sure your plans include things that you have planned to do or that you want to do. And I was guilty of letting my week and my month be guided by events, so like birthdays, and someone wants to go for a brunch, and someone said they have a house party and I'm going to that. But I wasn't very good at making plans myself. I kind of like, people would say like, this is happening, do you want to come, or like, we should do this, and I'd say yes. I wasn't very good at reaching out to my friends myself and saying, hey, I'd like to see you, and should we do this? Or even just like, okay, I saw that I want to go to this gallery, I'm going to ask someone to go with me, or I want to see this film, I'm going to say to someone, do you want to see this film? I kind of just like, either I had plans that had been put into my diary that I had added in, that someone had told me that was happening, or that I, you know, needed to go to, or I had no plans and I was just sitting around bored. And I think that's what I realized was missing, was giving myself time to do things I wanted to. And so a lot of that is actually creative stuff and finding time to create content, which is great. But secondly, it's also, I guess, making sure I'm entertaining myself and finding time to enjoy things as well outside of my house. So there was an event I went to the other day, actually. I'm just trying to remember, because I'm going to forget his name. I don't want to get his name wrong. Yeah, so I went to an event yesterday. Oh, not yesterday, sorry, a few days ago. actually maybe 2 weeks ago now, where Michaela Cole was interviewing Edward Einfeld. It was at the Barbican, and it was to kind of launch and preview his book, The Visible Man. Edward Einfeld is, I think, currently the editor-in-chief of Vogue UK. I hope that's right. I hope they don't come for me. I think so, yeah, Vogue UK. But he's released a book about his journey moving to the UK, growing up and kind of going into fashion as a gay black man. And I just saw it came up on one of my Instagram ads, and I just said, you know what? This actually sounds really interesting, and I don't have any plans on that day. Rather than just scrolling by and being like, can't be bothered, I asked a friend if they wanted to go with me, and we went, and it was actually really nice, and I felt so nice. I felt so happy getting home, because I was like, that was something I made time to do for myself that I wanted to do, and so I'm trying to do more of that. And it's hard, but it's one of the things I'm going to try and focus on, at least doing one thing, or one thing a week, or one thing every 2 weeks, that I really want to just focus on and keep regularity with. So the next thing I have on the list that is incredibly hard as an adult is finances and money. And I think, again, it's not like it's not like shocking to anyone that money's hard, but I think, particularly we're in a cost of living crisis, so prices are going up generally, but also when you have, and this kind of ties back in with plans, when you have plans and you have a birthday and you have a group holiday and you have, work drinks and you have an event to go to and you have shopping to do and you have you need to buy new clothes so you look nice in the office. All these things are not free. They cost money. Even getting the bus to go to Tesco, or getting the train or the tube to go and meet someone, it costs money. And so sometimes, what I can find hard with, particularly I think social media, is you see people who are constantly busy and constantly have plans, and you think, well, we used to work a similar kind of job, or we're in a similar kind of vein, like if they're doing it, I should be able to do it. And so you kind of live in a way that seems to be logical and makes sense, not in a sense of like keeping up with the Joneses, but a sense of just that I'm 20 something in London, this is the time where I should be making the most of life. So you kind of do all these things, and actually you have to kind of, you look at your bank account at the end of the month and think, Jesus Christ, like how are we going to make this work? And I think, again, it's just something that I've realize now, and I'm going to try and do this evening, is you just need to budget. You need to kind of sit down and be like, okay, how much do I want to save? How much do I want to allocate to just like having fun? How much is for like the food stuff? And then how much is there like as a buffer, so amount that's left over in case you need to go over and dip into that, and so you're not dipping into your savings. And again, like I'm someone that I'll go through phases. Like when I was saving to buy my house, I was really good at it, and I would just siphon money off when I got paid, and I would kind of try and be cheap and save money buying certain things that I thought were, appropriate in price. And then I hit the milestone of buying the house, and I was like, okay, fine, cool. Like I've saved and I've achieved what I was saving for. Spend. And then it's very dangerous with Apple Pay and contactless, and also all your friends wanting to go out and have fun all the time. I have a lot of yes friends who just like to have a good time. And so there's always going to be someone that's going to go out and do something ridiculous with me and spend money in expense. Oh yeah, go and buy that designer bag, or yeah, go on holiday and buy those shoes, or yeah, let's go away for the weekend, or let's go for dinner at this really expensive restaurant. And of course, all these things are enjoyable, and life is for enjoying, but at the same time, there's a balance of enjoying for the now and allowing yourself to enjoy later. And I've been in places where I've actually got myself into just like spending a lot of money and then realizing that actually I've overdone it. And I think it's just about being conscious, and that kind of is what I'm saying about adulting, because it's a shift from being a teenager or like like just out of uni where you can kind of fluff around for a bit, but I'm now closer to 30 than I am to the 20s of my life. And so I want to be financially stable and make sure I'm not getting to the end of each month and being like, okay, like I probably should have not spent that much. And that just comes from, again, planning. And I think that's what kind of all these things I'm saying come down to with adulting, is that you have to have a plan in place and you have to have structure. And when you have a structure and you kind of have systems that are running themselves and they're kind of autonomous in a way, then there's less time you have to spend thinking about how you're going to manage that, because you already have a pre-arranged budget that's just, the money's coming out and going direct debit into your savings account. And then, you've got your laundry day on Sunday and you're doing that, and you kind of, that kind of stuff I think is what helps. But yeah, money is another one that I think is pretty intense. And then I've got two left. So then the penultimate one is work. Having a job is hard. I think having to navigate the politics of the office and working intensely with various people and their personalities that you can't control, and wanting to progress and get promoted and get pay rises and get a good bonus and, be in a good place in line with your peers, it's a lot of pressure. And I think, I don't know, if I feel like I do, and a lot of my friends are quite good at compartmentalizing things, is you kind of go into the office, and sometimes I think about what I'm doing at work and the meetings I have and all the calls I have and the things I'm running and the projects I'm leading and the people I'm talking to, and like the tension sometimes in the office drama and whatever that's going on. And then you kind of leave the office and it's like, ooh, and you kind of like go back into being a different person. It's like there's the office Timi and there's the life Timi. And actually, like, a lot of energy and a lot of time is used, and it's such a big part of your life. And I'm from Monday to Friday, I'm getting up at 7 and I wake up, I'm getting ready for work. I go to work, I come back, and then I'm kind of getting ready for the next day of work. And it becomes kind of this like 5 out of 7, ratio to my life. And it actually becomes something that takes up a lot of time and energy, but it is also something you have to kind of constantly be thinking about. Like on the weekends, I have dreams about work sometimes, where I'm thinking about what I need to get done for the next day, or something I forgot to do. I'll remember in my sleep and wake up like, oh, I should have done that thing. And it's hard, I think, working with people that you don't get to choose. And everyone has different personalities. Everyone has different working styles. Everyone has a different level of experience, and everyone has different levels of empathy and understanding and ability to manage people. And so sometimes you can be in a team where, your colleagues, people at your level, at least, even should I say, your peers, there's competitiveness, and someone you just don't get on with, and they're constantly trying to step on you or embarrass you or kind of get one up on you or look better than you in front of your manager. And you can't just be like, I'm going to quit. Like, that's just working. Sometimes there are personality types like that you have to just deal with. And then managers is another one. You can just not get on with your manager. You can have different personality types. You could have a manager that is super present or super absent, just like really offhand, and doesn't give any guidance, or someone that's really involved in the weeds and kind of, instructs everything you do. You can have a manager that is, cold or quiet or not friendly, or just sometimes, and you can get terrible managers. You can get mean, horrible, rude managers who are just, borderline bullies. And that, I don't know if that comes with the industry as well, but I've heard stories from my friends in all industries where they just, devil wears Prada kind of thing, where the manager is just unbearable. And again, if you like that team or that company or the work you're doing, again, you can't just be like, I'm going to quit and leave. You kind of have to, strategize. And that's what it is. I think it's strategy, is thinking about, how am I going to approach this situation? How am I going to tackle it and make sure that I come out on top? Or how am I going to adjust the way I've been and make sure that I'm kind of focused on being better and getting the most out of the situation? And so sometimes, it can be a long, like 6-month, year-long thing where you have to kind of work towards improving that person's view of you, so you can get a good review and get good feedback and then kind of progress. And so it's nice. I see my friends when we kind of talk, and it's like, how's work? Yeah, work's fine. A bit busy. And we don't actually we don't always get into what's actually happening. And like this week I've had this project and it's been super intense, and this is why. And obviously there's confidentiality and stuff you can't talk about. But sometimes I think it's nice when you do speak to someone that works in the same industry or works in the same kind of, team as you, or gets what you're doing. You can actually explain why something's been hard and what you're going through, or just even just talking about like personalities in the office and sharing an experience and like saying, okay, how would you handle that? And I had one of these with my friends the other day. I went for drinks, and he was saying, that he started this new company and his managers are just really hands off, and he's not really getting any work given to him because they kind of just they've not hired someone at his level before, and then it's a new system they've put in place to hire him, and they're not really sure how to handle it. And he's kind of just like not feeling like he's being stimulated enough. And a few of us were talking to him, we all kind of came out of the same place, which is just like, you've got to put your hand up and say something's wrong, and say that it's not working, and actually come forward yourself and ask them to fix the system. And it's kind of one of those things with working. I think you don't get what you don't ask for. If you don't ask for promotion, you don't get one. If you don't ask for more exposure or responsibility, you don't get it. And so it was nice to kind of actually have a meaningful conversation with friends that we never talk about work. It's always kind of just, and this is a different group of friends, and of course with different friends you talk about different things, but with this group in particular, like, I don't see them that often because we're on the peripherals of different groups. But it's normally just like talking about what's happening and who's dating who and what's funny, and like talking about life and the news. And then actually it was nice to just talk about work and everyone share their own stories and anecdotes and experiences and run through what that was like. And so that was really fun. And I think it's nice to do that. So working, again, is super hard, but if you can make it work, that's also great. Okay, so first hard lesson learned. The camera stopped recording, which is great. That's really just what we were going for in terms of the first episode. So that's really annoying. But anyway, it's okay. We'll continue. I stupidly thought I was recording on one of the SD cards that I just bought that's 120 gigabytes, but I was recording on the 61, and there's all the footage from my holidays on there. So you'll get some content, you'll get some video content for this, and you'll get like a still, and then you'll get the end of this, and hopefully, of course, to the end. So yeah, sorry, watchers and listeners, you don't care because you're just listening. So the final one that's hard, as an adult, that I wanted to kind of run through, is health and exercise. And I've left off dating because I think that kind of goes without saying, and we can get into that on another episode, I think, in a more in-depth topic. But exercise and health, I feel like our society, our generation has gone through this new kick where everyone's doing CrossFit and everyone's doing SoulCycle and everyone's gymming 50 times a week and everyone's in good shape and everyone's wearing leggings to brunch and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not a hater, I'm honestly not. But when did the shift, maybe it was COVID, but when did the shift happen? I feel like everyone's suddenly really focused on health, and even in work, like everyone's got an Apple Watch or a Garmin and people are running and ring, and it's like like this person closed all their rings today and perfect week and a 7-day streak. And I'm someone that finds it very hard to be consistent with anything. And again, that's just how I am. I kind of dibble into things and stop and start. And I'm really trying to be better. And I think it's hard to, as we've gone through everything already, do your job really well, keep your house clean and tidy, do your laundry, see your friends, save, go to all the events you have, and also maintain a 3 or 4 times a week exercise routine, or go to classes and book in the classes and have the time to go to the classes and prepare to wake up in the morning, go to class and go from the class to your office, or go after work to a class, or pop to a class in between your day on the Saturday and, be in good shape and be in a good mood and not be tired. I just think it's insane. And, again, with exercise and fitness and like your physical appearance, it's one of those things where it's consistency over time. You can't just do a week or 2 and then stop and then do 3 weeks and then stop for a month. Like, you have to be consistent for a long period of time. And so, again, I think sometimes I can be a bit reticent when I do a few days or do a few weeks and then I don't see the progress I want. I'm like, it's not really working. Like, I'm going to stop, and then I stop, or I'm trying and I'm also not eating properly. And that's the other thing. This is why I said exercise and health. You've also got to eat right, and I'm someone I've got a very sweet tooth. I just made about 20 shortbread cookies for myself yesterday because I knew that I'm starting a new diet for Monday and I'm just going to stuff my face, and it's kind of counterintuitive, but whatever. You have to eat right, so you got to meal prep and make sure you're counting your calories. And that's the other thing, like, when are you guys finding the time to do all of this stuff? When are you guys finding the time to count your calories? So to meal prep in the right proportions, then count your calories, and then throughout the day when you snack or have something like a coffee or a packet of crisps, put that into MyFitnessPal and also do your job and then come back and then exercise. I just don't think I'm ever going to be to that level of diligence. I've just got to try and realize I've got to try and eat less calories eat enough calories that I'm full but not full to the brim and bloated. But basically I need to maintain a calorie deficit, so I make sure I'm burning more than I'm eating. And at the minute I'm not doing any exercise, so I'm not burning anything, so everything I eat is just going straight to my fat ass. And that's not the best. So it's something I also find really hard, and I've been saying this since uni, and my friends are sick and tired of hearing me talk about it, because I say every week, that I'm starting a new health plan, or I'm starting a new kick. And the one thing that actually worked for me, and I was saying this before to you guys, was CrossFit. Just because you lost money if you cancelled on the class. So I would go every morning. I went every other morning because I didn't want to lose money. So I'd book a class, I'd book 3 a week, and then I would go because I was like, I don't want to cancel and then, miss out on, or I don't want to get charged. So I would kind of go, and then that was my incentive to just go. It was money. And also the classes are really intense. What I love is they're an hour. I go in the morning before work, and I didn't have to think. I just wake up and cycle, get there, and then, Nick, who was the guy, would just be like, do this, do that, you're in a pair. And it was actually, that's the other thing I hate is with the gym, is figuring out what I want to do on what day and planning it and actually doing it properly and doing it efficiently. I kind of, when I go to the gym, I'll just do a bit and then be like, oh, it's been half an hour, I should go home now. And I think with CrossFit, there's 30 people there, you're all working intensely, they're in great shape, and you just think, oh, I've got to just do it really well. And if you're in a pair, you're embarrassed if you lose as a team. So that was motivation that I think group exercising, which I think I need to kind of focus on doing more. But it's super expensive. It's like CrossFit's like £200 or like £150 a month on top of your gym membership. And I just that's not really affordable or reasonable for me or most people actually in this life. So I'm not doing that anymore. So it's finding something that is going to work for me that I've kind of been dabbling in and out of. But yeah, those are my things I find hard as an adult. And I'd love to know if you guys relate and if you think the same, or if I'm just a loser that can't get to grips with things. But that's why I think's hard. And there are other things as well. I mean, like watering my plants. I have like maybe 10, 15 plants in my house, and there's sometimes it's 3 weeks I don't water them, they start dying, and it's just I don't have that kind of structural set routine where Saturday's watering my plants day in the morning when I wake up. And so there's many things to remember, or like washing up dishes again is another one. So yeah, there are loads of things, but those are the things that I find hard as an adult that I wanted to kind of talk through today. So welcome to a section called Timi's Takes, where I talk about a story or stories in the news that I found interesting that I want to just share my commentary on. Some of these will be silly and funny, some of these will be kind of just standard news stories. And this is one that I saw when I was looking this week that I thought was interesting to talk about briefly. There was an experiment done recently where certain companies have gone on to a 4-day week. So a few firms in the UK have been taking part in a 4-day week trial instead of a 5-day week. And the results show that most of the firms, I think they asked people halfway through the trial, and so far 41% of the companies involved have said they're going to keep the 4-day week trial after the trial ends. So the 4-day week kind of system in place. And so these firms, there are 70 firms taking part, and these firms pay their employees 100% of their salary, but for 80% of their normal hours. So I think it's just split across the 4 days. Now, what I find quite interesting, right, so we've got 73 companies and 41 have said they're going to continue with the trial. So I think that's, around 86% actually. So when I said 41 before, that was wrong. 86% of the companies said they carry on. So 41 companies said yes, and the percentage is 86%. Now, I don't know. I think the 4-day week is a great idea. I'd love to work one less day because it would give me more time to just live my life and be a human being and not just a corporate slave to the rat race. Sorry. Because typically it's Monday to Friday, you're just like working, and then Friday you kind of like are either asleep on the sofa dead, or you have to rush from work and go to a plan, and then the weekend begins. And Saturday, by the time it's Saturday evening, I'm kind of like, well, the weekend's done, because Sunday's a prep day, and I always get Sunday blues around 5. So it'd be nice to have one more day to just go to the gym and go to the cinema maybe, and go and see friends, or maybe just do some tidying, and then you could have the full Saturday and Sunday to just relax and not do anything. The only thing I worry about is that, and again, with the kind of industry I work in, where there isn't really a limit on hours, you do the hours to get the work done. I worry that you just end up working the 5 days anyway. Like, I want to do a bit of work today and it's a Sunday, and I just worry that if this was to be put in place, some companies would just still expect people to work like, oh, it's a 4-day week, but sorry, Hayley, like, that project's due on Monday, so you should probably work today, see you in the office tomorrow. I wonder how well enforced it would be. I don't think it would ever work globally. I just don't think it would work, because certain industries, especially where you're client servicing or client facing, the clients are not going to care that you've decided to adopt a 4-day week. Like, if they're a 5-day week company and they want something for a Friday, like, I think you're going to have to do it for the Friday. But I think this is not me being a capitalist, like, warrior. I'm not saying that's what I'm not saying that's the way things should be. But at the same time, I think for the sectors that it works, or industries that it works in, I think it's a great idea. I think it's nice people can have, the split of the week is already so heavily work-based. Again, we're in a capitalist society, of course, so it's 5 and 2. I think 4 and 3, 4 days working and 3 days not working is a much better balance. It gives you more time to actually just breathe and you should have like closer to half of the week to yourself, and not be giving 5/7 of your life away to your employee for the whole of your life until you retire at 62. It seems a bit intense and crazy. And I don't actually have any friends who are in the 4-day week trial, so I'd love to speak to someone that is actually doing it and see what they thought. But I just thought it was interesting, because I know I think France and a few other companies in Europe started doing trials, and some have actually shifted to it fully, and it seems to be working. But I just question whether it would work in the UK due to the intensity of the people that run these companies. But yeah, interesting idea. And so each week I'll try and find some more stories next week, and some that are just more like weird and random stuff, like man eats 50 pies and dies, or whatever. I made that up, but stories that are actually could also be a bit silly. But that's this section. It's called Timi's Take. So I'll be doing it at the end of each episode, maybe the start, I don't know. I think the end of each episode, running through some silly things I've saw, or some interesting things I've seen in the news that I want to talk about. But yeah, that's Timi's Takes. Okay, thank you so much for watching this episode, guys. This was the first episode of Black Eye, the podcast. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you could relate to some of the things I was talking about as an adult. And I hope you feel better hearing someone else say that they also struggle with these things. It's not easy, and it's super stressful, and I don't think anyone has it all together. And I don't think we will for a while, particularly at least my friends in this kind of age group. I think this is kind of the coming of age, the real coming of age, getting towards the 30s, and hopefully after the 30s we have clarity. But yeah, I feel slightly therapized myself just talking about it. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, it's great to be back podcasting. It feels very natural, speaking and kind of having my headset on and just sharing. So I've really enjoyed it. I hope you guys have enjoyed it as well. Of course, if you've liked this episode, share it with your friends. If you come up here by random and you listen to this point, thank you very much. If you did like it, go and give it a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you can. Give it 5 stars. Go on, don't be shy. Hit that button. Leave a comment if you want. That helps me boost my viewings and ratings, and then gets to new people. If you want to follow the Instagram, it's Black Eye the Pod. I think on Instagram. I'm just gonna check because the last podcast we said the Instagram wrong for ages. So let me just see what it is. So the Instagram itself is Black Eye the Pod. Yeah, so at Black Eye the Pod. Give it a follow. I'll be giving updates from there and sharing some behind the scenes and kind of giving you previews of what's coming in the next week. But yeah, that's the first episode, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much for listening, and have a blessed week. Goodbye.